The event is now being recorded, and with that, I will turn it over to Mike Azzo for today's presentation.
Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate that. My name is Michael Azzo, Senior Procurement Specialist with the Department of Procurement Services, and I'll be leading this workshop on how to respond to a request for proposal or RFP. We'll be going through the department overview, tips for finding opportunities, RFP versus competitive bid, RFP proposal format, RFP proposal content, RFP evaluation criteria, tips for preparing RFP proposal, e-procurement submission, proposal evaluation, and award. Little bit overview. DPS is the contract authority for the procurement of goods and services for the city of Chicago. We work together as a team and with our customers to guarantee an open, fair, and timely process by establishing, communicating, and enforcing superior business practices. Okay, for all our bids or RFPs valued over 100,000 are publicly advertised through Chicago Tribune. They're advertised Monday through Friday. Bids and RFPs are usually posted to the DPS website. If you can go there, you can see on there, there's a link to the iSupplier portal for e-procurement system where you can submit a RFP through the iSupplier system online. You can come to the bid and bond room, room 103, to get current bid opportunities for bids and RFPs. If you go there, we have our buying plan, and that's where you can, we have all our projects that we anticipate awarding for the next year, and that is posted online as well. A good way to network with firms is through pre-bid conferences, pre-proposal conferences, and a key component to that is the takeout listing that can be found online as well. The takeout listing will show you all vendors who have taken out the opportunity or interested in responding to the opportunity. And then at the pre-proposal, that's where the city will go over questions and basic requirements for specifications. And it's an opportunity for smaller firms to network and potentially buying subcontracting opportunities. RFP versus competitive bid. When do we use RFPs versus competitive bids? A request for proposal is a method of procurement for professional services. We're looking to hire consultants or professional technical experts to implement these services. With this, we usually don't know how we want these services. We know what we need, but we don't know how to get those services. So in general, we're looking to give you an explanation of how we can get the services accomplished. A competitive bid is more for supplies, commodities, or equipment, maintenance, or repair services in construction. They are detailed. We have bid proposal pages and requirements where they're clearly defined, and the company provides a pricing upon what we're telling you and what we need. These are structured as a specific quantities and specific usage. Bid specification for a competitive bid details every aspect of services, and the RFP is going to give you some general parameters, but does not specify every detail aspect to how to accomplish or perform the required services. For a competitive bid, the contract is awarded the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, meaning city specification requirements based on review of bid tabulation and recommendation of award. For an RFP, it's more subjective, and the vendor selection is to the highest rated or ranked respondent to the RFP and not necessarily the lowest price. Price can be negotiated. An RFP entails detailed evaluation of the proposals received by an evaluation committee based on evaluation criteria published within the RFP. The evaluation committee is derived from various stakeholders within different city Chicago departments. Evaluation committees are always diverse, and sometimes we'll have consultants from outside the city of Chicago. This team of members will go through and evaluate your proposals, determine who has the best plan to meet the specific needs. For most of our contracts, RFP content is standardized but vary depending on the project. Example as city funded or state federally funded. We usually always have compliance goals. We usually have always compliance goals associated within each project, which is minority, women, disadvantaged, veterans, subcontracting opportunities. These are firms that are certified with the city of Chicago. These goals are set aside for smaller firms that are certified with the city. You'll have an opportunity to perform on most contracts. And also, if you are a smaller firm, you're not, and it was not certified with the city, you'll likely have to subcontract. Disadvantaged business enterprise goals are always for federally funded projects. RFP proposal format. Proposals are to be submitted through an electronic copy. The specification will detail how the proposals should be submitted. Proposals are to be provided in a Word searchable format. Sections of your proposal should be separated by labeled tabs or organized in subject matter sequence in the required content of the proposal section. Each page should be numbered in a manner to be identified. Proposals should be well organized, clear, and concise. A redacted proposal must be submitted as well. As we continue to go through this information, we are looking for as we continue to go through this information, we are asking for private information, such as your company's financials and additional pertinent information. Once the contracting process is completed, DPS will release proposals. And if your company hasn't sent us a redacted copy, it means potentially confidential information or information you don't want known about your company could be released. So it's very important you submit a redacted proposal along with any proposal submitted. Also, most information is subject to FOIA requests or Freedom of Information Act. So if someone were to ask for information, we would submit the redacted proposal to them. The proposal content. So this list of the RFP proposal content, we can start going through each. You will see on the cover page of the RFP, it'll show you some bio information. It will also show the attention, and that's the person on the project. It's your really only contact with the city. If you have any questions or you need any information, that is your point of person. The cover page of the RFP will also provide details of the pre-proposal conference. They are not mandatory, but we strongly encourage them, especially for submittal of the RFP. Additionally, pay attention to the date at the bottom cover. It will detail and tell you when and where the proposal must be received, and the proposal may not be accepted if it's turned in late from the cutoff date. The RFPs can be downloaded from the City of Chicago internet website. You want to be sure to be a iSupplier you want to be sure to set up an iSupplier account when downloading any bid or RFP from the e-procurement site. It is beneficial for your company to register to these projects. That way, your company will receive any information that will be notified of any addenda or clarifications. Just a note, only those companies that have registered for those projects will be notified of these addendums or clarification issued by Department of Human Services. For each RFP, it has a table of contents, and it will go through and provide general information. This gives you some general information. The general information on what the city is asking for is gives you some general parameters of what the service is. It's important to note that the contract terms, you want to know the commitment or how long you'll be contracted for should you win the contract. Also important to maintain a copy of your submittal. Although you're submitting it to the city, we won't send it back to you in most cases because we treat them as confidential. We don't give them out due to them might having trade secrets or pertinent information. For every RFP, this is a general format and it will look very similar to regardless of what the service is. So your company will want to go through each section, very clearly understand what we're asking for as what you need to submit, and also it's a good idea to make a checklist from the RFP of what's required before you submit it through and make sure you checked off everything on the list. The basic things outlined here, first the cover letter. So every proposal shall have a cover letter. And this letter is essentially like our execution page for a bid. It should be signed by someone in your company who's authorized to sign contracts and has contracting authority if the city has issued any addendums. If the city has issued any addendums, you'll want to be sure to acknowledge the addendum in the cover letter and also go through each section and ensure that you've included everything that we've asked for, such as your company information, your legal name, your headquarters, telephone number, email address, principal contact, should we have any questions. We need to know who we need to get in touch with your firm. Additionally, attached to the RFP will be a sample contract that will be included as an exhibit. That's where you will include any exceptions, comments to the city's standard terms and conditions attached to the RFP. That's when we, DPS, will know if you have any issues with our standard terms and conditions, and we want to make sure to outline these in your cover letter. Should you have any comments or exceptions, this doesn't exclude you from the process, but we will need to know this. This will be finalized during the contract negotiation phase of the contracting process. Next, we will ask for the executive summary. And essentially, we're asking you to explain your understanding of attending of our objectives and how you plan to achieve these objectives. The third one is professional qualification and specialized experience of respondent and team members. The respondent and the team members committed to the project. The EC will want to know, evaluation committee, which is the EC, will want to know your experience and anyone you propose to have on your team. This may be subcontractors, this will be various members of your firm, but whoever you propose to have working on the project, all the key players who help you perform will want to detail their experience. You'll want to detail their experience and their qualifications. With every RFP, we'll have company profile information form, and that's the form that is included in the RFP, and you want to complete that. We ask you to use this form and fill out your company's information. Or if you're proposing to do a joint venture with another company, we'll need to know this. And the exhibits for the special conditions for M and WBE firms, we have a Schedule B, which is a form that you'll use to fill out for the joint venture, which captures the information of who you are and who you're partnering with. We also have an exhibit for references. We want at least 3, and you want to use people who are similar to the city, or if you've worked with other municipalities, that would be good. If you have an estimated contract value of $1 million, you want to show us firms that had a similar contract value. Be sure that your references coincide with what the service is. So if we're asking for a big contract value, you might want to submit references you wouldn't want to submit references for a small project. And also note, we will be contacting your references. So anyone included in your proposal, we may be contacted by the city as well. Usually this is done via email through a reference check. Additionally, we standardly ask for a business license. You don't have to be licensed with the Illinois Secretary of State when you submit your proposal, but when you are in award process, you have to be licensed with Illinois Secretary of State in order to get the contract. If it's a specialized services, you may need a license. You'll want to include any licenses or information that shows us that you're able to perform those services. And the fourth one, professional qualifications and specialized experience of key personnel. Local availability of key personnel will be dedicated. Give us experience of the key personnel and local availability of your key personnel and who will be dedicated to the project. We'll be looking to the main players or the top management people and their qualifications. For a lot of these projects, you don't have to be a local firm. For some projects, there may be advantage to being locals. So that is why we are looking at where your staff are in Chicago. Are you in Nebraska? We'll need to know where you're located and where your key staff will be. And we're also looking for people who have expertise and services that we are asking for. Fifth one is the implementation of work management plan. This is probably the key component of your proposal. And here for this, you'll see how some level of detail listed on what we're looking for as far as descriptions, interest, and understanding the approach to provide these services. You want to be ensured to include everything outlined there to respond to your proposal. We're asking you to describe and tell us your plan to achieve these goals. Essentially, you could be found non-responsive if you don't have what we're asking for or have missed the point. Important to have a checklist or use RFP as a checklist as you're preparing your proposal. You're making sure you've touched on every single item that's outlined in the RFP. Additionally, we ask for an organizational work chart. We want to see who's in your organization and the levels of management and how key players fall into your organizational chart. The city is also looking to make sure that you have the resources, the capacity that you can take on the project. We ask you that you list dedicated resources to our accounts, for instance, such as an important information that you have the staff to complete the services. Your firm might be able to complete. Maybe your firm may be capable of providing the services, but if you don't have the staff on hand, then that would be a hindrance to getting the services done. Not all projects require staffing. Not all projects require a staffing plan, for instance, consulting or financial services, but some do so. So be sure if we're asking for you to who is on your staff, your response should include resources to provide these services. The cost proposal. For some RFPs, your cost is not as important. So you'll notice we're looking for the most qualified firm. Some firms, we want to see your costs up front. The schedule of compensation as part of the RFP is another exhibit, and you'll want to be sure to use the exhibit that we're given in the RFP. Sometimes we're looking for an hourly rate, and we'll give you, and you'll give us a lump sum that doesn't help us determine if your cost is competitive to another vendor. Again, please be sure to use the exhibit that is included in the RFP to give us your cost. The next is the MBE and WBE participation plan. This you can find it on schedules C1 and schedule D1. We touched on this a bit already, but the Minority and Women and Veteran Business Enterprise Commitment. Please be sure to look at what we're asking for. When submitting your proposal, you'll have to identify which firms you anticipate subcontracting with. You will see within the RFP what we call Schedule Cs and Schedule D. The Schedule C is to be submitted by the subcontractor. Essentially, your subcontractor will fill it out for you. They'll describe what type of work they'll be doing and also the terms of the payment. Schedule D is filled out by the prime contractor. And it's for you to list out all the firms you're going to be contracting with, their level of participation, and the cost that you've agreed to. For most RFPs, our projects do have some incentives, which are listed in RFP, such as Chicago-based business, alternate powered vehicles. If you're veteran-owned, we have an incentive for businesses who are people with disabilities. And should the RFP have no stated goals, meaning that there's we're not asking for any MW or VEBE participation, we have an incentive if you choose to have these MWVEBE subcontractors on a no stated goals project, you'll be given an incentive. So these incentives are essentially lower your costs, provides an advantage likely over some other firms. And then number 8, or the next one, financial statements. This is something you must provide for every RFP. If you're a smaller firm, we understand that, but you would have to provide something. We want to see your financial statements for at least 3 years, and you won't be able to move forward in the process without providing something. The online disclosure statement, the next one. EDS is done online and is part of our city's transparency. Everyone who has a contract with the city or submits a proposal must fill out an EDS, and the EDS tells us the ownership of your company, essentially. Legal actions. If you have any legal actions, we want to know about these. This won't disqualify you from the process, but it's something that we ask you to let us know up front, and it's for the last 5 years. And then the last one is insurance certificate. The RFP will outline the insurance requirements. As part of your proposal, you don't have to submit a certificate. You can, but we're not asking you to get insurance until you've actually awarded the contract. So it's not until contract award that you actually have to submit the certificate of insurance. But as part of your proposal, you do need to include at a minimum of a statement that says you can comply with the city's insurance requirements. Evaluation criteria proposals. The RFP will tell you how we're going to evaluate by a group of members who are either city employees or consultants, and they go through every proposal submitted independently first. Then they meet as a group to discuss the proposals. The evaluation criteria, it's essentially going through what we've asked in the RFP for you to submit, and what we're looking to see how well you're understanding that you can provide these services, or how well you presented your firm. Some of the criteria are weighted and scored, and others are pass and fails. Check if you submitted your legal actions or your financial statements, and so on. They could be grounds of rejection to your proposal. Additionally, we are looking into purposes of any conflicts of interest as well. An example could be you help the user department create the scope of services for the project, and that would be a conflict of interest, and you won't be able to respond to the request for proposals. We're also looking that you accept our terms and conditions, but again, if you don't, this is something we'll work out during the contract negotiation period. For the selection process, once your proposals are scored and evaluated during the contract negotiation, we'll work out during the contract for the selection, once your proposals are scored and evaluated, we'll ask your firm to come in and do, we might ask you for your firm to do oral presentations. You will be notified of this, and we will give you an agenda and may ask you to provide additional information or a new technology, or if it's a new technology or a demonstration, and what we were asking for. But you will know about this in advance of the presentation. After the selection process has completed, all firms who have submitted a proposal will be notified for either you've been selected or you have been selected. The evaluation process can sometimes be pretty lengthy. So you may submit a proposal and you won't hear back from us for about a few months. We absolutely will notify you at some point, but please understand the evaluation process is pretty lengthy. The city has the right to accept or reject any proposals, and time and cost for submitting your proposal won't be reimbursed. Please be sure to note that. Professional qualifications and specialized experience, references, current and past performances, certifications, and any licenses. Include that in your proposal. The professional qualifications, key personnel, you want to include resumes, role of the project, and should include the organizational chart and dedicated resources. Cost proposal, whatever form that is attached to the RFP for the cost proposal, please use that. We're looking for fully loaded hourly rates with RFPs and professional service agreements. So it's important to note, unlike a bid, there's no price adjustments. Your prices will be fixed. You'll have to anticipate as time goes on for the duration of the contract, how many years, including extension options years, which your cost is going to be, because we won't be doing any price adjustments throughout the contract. MBWE special conditions. You'll want to go through this. Clearly understand what this is and go through it in detail to understand the MWBE VBE special conditions program. Sometimes firms may not be able to identify any subcontracted opportunities, and in these conditions, we outline if we're and in these special conditions we outline if you're requesting a waiver or can't find any subcontract opportunities, and we can guide you on how to submit the waiver. And it's important to note that you must have good faith efforts documented for a waiver request using our sister agencies for assistance, and we have all others included on our City of Chicago website for the sister agencies. We have a sample letter for you to send out asking them for help for finding these subcontracting opportunities. Once you have done this, you can submit a waiver request. We won't accept any waiver requests if you haven't submitted your good faith efforts. Schedule C are there for your subcontractors to fill out by you, the MWBE firms. Please, fill out by your MWBE firms. Please ensure that most costs you've negotiated is clearly detailed, and also the work that they've been performing is clearly detailed. Schedule D is a 5-page document for the prime to fill out, and you'll fill out all your subcontractors that you anticipate working with, and the Schedule D will tell you how much you'll be paying the firm, and the percentage of the contract that the firm will be receiving. Please note you'll be evaluated based upon exactly what is included in RFP. You'll know what we're asking from the RFP. Our first evaluation that we go through is we create our own checklist, go through and ensure that you've submitted everything that we've asked. We may send clarifications, asking questions, or forgot something. We may ask for you to submit these things, or you may be deemed unresponsive. We would go to phase 2 of the proposal evaluations. Tips for RFP proposals. Exhibit forms that must be completed as part of the proposal submission will vary depending upon the RFP. But the exhibits forms are universal to every RFP. Company profile information, company references, client profile information, MWBE, DBE compliance plan, the online disclosure statement, which includes disclosures of retained parties and familial relationships with elected city officials and department heads, and other certifications. This is usually done online, or this is done online. Review the city's standard terms and conditions from the sample contract attached to the RFP as an exhibit to determine if your firm can perform under these terms and conditions. Verify the existence of any addendums issued by the city. E-procurement submissions. The city has transitioned from paper proposals to online submissions of RFPs and RFQs via e-procurement. Vendors must register in iSupplier to submit electronic submissions through e-procurement. Please allow 3 days to complete the registration. Pay attention to RFP instructions for proposal submission requirements. Again, cover letter must be signed by an authorized officer and acknowledge any addendums issued. Make a checklist of all submittal requirements per the proposal required content section to verify completeness of proposal before submitting to DPS. E-procurement submission resources. Workshops show lots of instructional videos on our, and they can be found on our Chicago DPS YouTube page. They are already posted, which details, and you can find them throughout these links here. They can help you out detail the procurement process. Proposal evaluation and award. This is after the contracting process is complete. We don't give out any information about proposals until the contracting process is complete. Should you submit a proposal and not be selected, you can have a debriefing. Again, once all contracts or a contract is awarded, then we can do a debriefing, and essentially we'll go through any issues we found or highlight any areas you might be lacking in as to why you didn't win the contract award. Every submittal to the city is subject to FOIA request. We treat your proposals as confidential. It's important to submit a redacted copy. The EC Evaluation Committee evaluates your proposal in 3 phases. First one is a checklist we go through. Phase 2, your proposals are independently evaluated by each EC member, and phase 3 is optional for the city, which is an oral presentation. If it's necessary, we may ask you to come in and do an oral presentation or a demonstration, or we may ask you to come to your firm and do a site visit of your facility. Vendor selection and declination letters are sent to respondents. The city's not obligated to select any vendor. Contract award is contingent upon successful contract negotiations. During this phase, we will look into exceptions you took into the standard terms and negotiate cost. And that concludes my 101 request for proposal, and I will turn it over to Mr. Ryan Gage to facilitate the questions and answers. Thank you.
So thanks everyone for joining us today for the Contracting 101, how to respond to a request for proposal. I realize that that presentation is quite dense and that we spent a lot of time on each slide. I did notice a question from someone about the PowerPoint being frozen. Again, we did spend quite a bit of time on each slide, so that may have been the issue, but If you did not, if you were unable to see the slide transitions throughout the presentation, I'll drop my email address here in the chat box right now, and everyone who needs to get a copy of that presentation can do so by emailing me. But for now, I'll just remind everyone, we'll give everyone here 2 or 3 minutes. If you want to go ahead and type a question out, you can do that now. Again, we'll give everyone 1 or 2 minutes here. If you want to type out a question, please let us know. Well, seeing no questions, we do want to thank everyone for attending today, and thank you as well for being patient with us here as we went through a pretty, again, dense presentation, but we hope you did find it helpful. In the event that you did find this workshop helpful, you can feel free to share it on social media using the hashtag DPS workshops. If you do not feel like doing that, we understand. Lastly, before we let everyone go today, I'll just remind everyone that within a few business days after all of these workshops, you can find copies of them on the YouTube page at Chicago DPS. With that, that concludes today's presentation. We hope you enjoyed it. We hope you got the educational components out of it that you sought, and we will see you next time.